We're patching floors tonight. I got my first patch cut out. We've got to get it bent up and we got to get it fit into place. Let's get in the truck and take a look at how we're going to go about that. All right, so finally we're getting to start on the floors here. And the first thing I want to take care of are these little patches on each side that we cut out when we were cutting the rot out of the floorboards here. So what I did was I went ahead and I made up a paper template here, right? And I've got all my bends marked out where it's going to fit and how it's going to fit in there. So what I need to do is I use that as a template to cut this out. I need to now start bending this panel into shape to see how we can get it to fit in here and see if it's going to work. I mean, I think this is going to work up just fine, but I want to get it bent into place. I want to get all the old metal on the outside cleaned up, trimmed away where it needs to be trimmed away to, and get this panel tacked in and do the same thing on the other side. So that's the goal for this evening. I've got a couple bends, general bends marked here on my patch panel. So these solid lines here, this is one bend line. This is a bend line right across here, and then down here is a bend line. So this one's got to come up, this one's got to come down, and that one's got to come down. So actually, this one comes up like that. So what I want to do is I want to transfer these marks onto my patch panel. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lay my patch over the top of the template. We're going to get it lined up. So I got the top lined up here, and this bend is pretty much going to happen right along where that line is. Okay. Now I'm going to, let's see, what I want to do on this is I'm going to take a straight edge and I'm going to carry this all the way to the ends of our template. We're going to line our template back up at the top. And essentially, that angle bend is going to intersect with this short bend here. And then we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to line up our side edge here. Should be something about like that. We're going to put a mark down here where this other bend is marked out on the edge. And now I've got 2 points that I can connect for my bend area. This isn't gonna have to be exact, we just need it close. We can adjust as we see fit. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing for this one, although this one appears to be right in the joint there. And then down on the bottom, it's gonna be somewhere around here. I'll mark that off. Okay. All right, so now I know that this bend has to be bent up like this one has to be bent down, and this one has to be bent up like this. I'm gonna have to make a cut here, along here, so that I can make this bend. I can basically separate these two panels so that I can make this bend and this bend separate from one another. Otherwise, they're gonna be fighting each other here. So I'm gonna go ahead and notch the panel out here, and then we're gonna bend these into shape, and we'll do a little test fit and see how it turned out. Now, to bend these into place, I'm gonna steal my bar from my brake, my little cheap little brake, and we're just gonna clamp this down to the table and use hammers or pliers to try to bend this up into shape. So let me get this lined up with the edge of the table first. I'm gonna grab a couple C-clamps. I got you guys positioned a little bit better here. The brilliant thing about this is you can do this with any piece of flat stock. You could do this across your workbench. If you're just bending thin metal, you can improvise and make something like this work. I don't have a large sheet metal brake. Someday we will. Today is not that day. All right, I need to bend this up, okay? So I've got a couple options here. One, I've got these sheet metal pliers. I have a nice straight edge on them. I can literally just clamp in there and bend up like that. And we'll just have to work our way down the panel a little bit. Do it a little bit at a time. We're guessing on the angles a little bit here, but we're just trying to get close. And then we can come back and make adjustments as we see fit. Bring this up just a little bit to even it out. Okay, that actually worked pretty well for this short edge here. The other option, if you don't have a pair of pliers like that, you just smack this with a hammer from the bottom side. Smack it up, get it up into place. You can grab a pair of regular pliers. So they're gonna mar up the plastic, or they're gonna mar up the sheet metal a little bit, but anything like that'll work. It's all about using what you got around you. You don't need special tools for a lot of this work. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing here. Get my edge lined up on the table. Okay, and we're just gonna do the exact same thing on this side. Just gonna bring it up. Bring it up. Now, my pliers don't quite reach all the way to the back side here, so like I said, let's take a hammer here on the back side. We're gonna work our way up. Okay, put a nice little bend in there. All right, I'm just getting this started. So what I want to do, I'm going to pause here for a minute. I don't want to go too nuts on this. I'm just starting to get this bent into shape. I'm going to grab, I'm just going to take this right across this edge. We're just going to bend that down. So that's how that's going to go. We're going to take this over to the truck and see if we're on the right track here. All right, so check this out. We're doing pretty darn good here, guys. Probably a little bit too much, definitely too much bend on this flange down here. But the rest of this is going to be pretty darn close to where we need to be. What I'll probably have to do is make a cut in along here so we can fold this back, this corner back down. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that real quick. We're just eyeballing all this. So I need to cut somewhere in there. We're just kind of eyeballing all this for the time being. And we're just going to fold that edge back down after we cut this. I'm liking this edge up here. We can make this work along the top here. I'm a little bit longer than I need to be, which is okay, because we'll come in here with the angle grinder and just, once we get this kind of tacked into place where we want it, we'll just make a cut right down this and tack it in. So, a couple things I need to do. I need to flatten this bend out a little bit. Definitely need to flatten this bend out a little bit, and we're going to make this cut up here. Let's make those adjustments real quick. All right, this edge, I'm just going to push that down a hair. I can just feel that moving. Same thing I'm going to do up here. I'm just going to bend that down just a hair. Okay, we made an adjustment on those. Probably going to have to go a hair more on this outer flange. We're not looking for perfect just yet. We're just trying to get ourselves established close to where this patch is going to fit. Okay, made a few adjustments here. Let's stick it back in the truck, see how we're looking. All right, we're getting a little closer. So I'm gonna try and just put some pressure on this and kind of force this up where I want it. Okay, you can see we're getting close up there. At some point, not quite yet, we're gonna have to commit we're gonna have to commit to this being where it needs to be and start at one end and work our way down the patch. But I'd like to get this a little bit closer first. I think what I wanna do next, I'm gonna figure out where I like this. I'm gonna mark a few things to trim. So I'm gonna trim away the original sheet metal where I need to trim that away, and I'm gonna trim my patch away because my patch isn't perfect yet. So we'll try and get it a little bit, fit a little bit closer. And I'm just gonna make small adjustments here as we go. So first thing I can see is I'm actually hitting up in this corner, so I'm gonna take a little chunk off up here. We're just gonna do small adjustments one at a time here. I think the important thing to remember when you're doing something like this is you don't have to be perfect. You know, if you're trying to build show quality vehicles, sure, you probably don't want to do it this way. But I'd say 90% of you out there are just trying to get an old car back on the road. So don't be afraid to get out there, experiment, push some sheet metal around, play with things a little bit. You might be surprised at the outcome you get. All this work can be as difficult as you want to make it. If you want to go for professional quality stuff, by all means, take as much time as you want making these panels. But if you're just trying to get the thing back on the road, and we're talking about parts nobody's ever going to see, and you're doing the right thing by putting metal back in and welding it in, I think you're going to be just fine. There is a time and place for show quality work. This is not it, and I'm not that guy. We're learning here. If you're just tuning in, if you've not found my channel before, you're just finding my channel. I've talked about this in past episodes, but I'm learning. This is all new for me. I've welded on sheet metal, I've welded on steel, I've done all that kind of stuff. I've never done it rust repair like this before. So I'm learning. I'm learning right along with you guys. And we're both along for the ride together. Now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna trim out these marks that I just marked from my patch. We're gonna start getting this thing fit in flush, clean these edges up, and see if we can't start welding some of this back together. Okay, I did some adjusting, a little pushing here, a little pushing there, a little trimming here, a little trimming there. And look at that, I got this thing pretty darn close, right? I got some gaps here or there, but I think we're gonna be able to make this work. So the next thing I need to do is I actually need to drill out my holes here for the seat bracket. The seat bracket bolts in here. So I need to have those holes drilled out on this floor pan. So I'm gonna put that in right there, right about where that's gonna be. And I've got my marker here. And from the bottom side, I'm going to mark these holes into the bottom of this panel. Try and get this lined up about where I think it's gonna live. Somewhere about like that. I'm just gonna stick the marker up through the bottom, either one of those holes. There, I got 2 marks right there. We're gonna drill those holes out so that they will clear these captured nuts here. So it's gonna end up being a pretty good size hole in the sheet metal here. All right, I'm also going to clean up the back side of this panel. Just gonna hit it with some Scotch-Brite, and then I'm gonna wipe it down with some paint thinner. And then we're going to prime this thing with weld-through primer on the back side, because there's that cross brace that eventually we're gonna wanna weld to. See how much dirt and grime came off of there? So I always wanna prep your surfaces. All right, I made a few more small adjustments. We got the whole back side of this panel primed up. I got my holes drilled for the seat mount there. I also drilled a few holes where this is gonna meet this cross brace here, where that could be tacked down like so. We're not quite ready for that yet, but that is the plan eventually here. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this thing kind of lined up where I think it should be. And we're gonna throw a couple tacks in it. Yeah, see, I already don't like that. A little bit too close on the back side. All right, I'm just gonna work my way around the panel here, get a few light tacks going, and see how we feel about it, see if we can get it bent into a shape that I like. All right, starting to take shape here a little bit. We're getting something that resembles a floorboard here. I can get this pushed down into place where it needs to be. And all these gaps are okay. I can fill those pretty easy, no big deal there. What I need to do now is down here on this leading edge, we've got a little bit of overhang, and I knew I was gonna have a little bit of extra panel. I did that intentionally, but I need to trim that overhang off of this panel, and I need to drill my spot welds out for the bottom side of this where it's gonna spot weld to the rocker panel. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing tacked down now. I am gonna have some to trim up along here, so I'm not gonna weld all the way in the front corner. I left this overhanging because I wanted to leave a little extra here for when we go to put in our floor patch. This whole corner was missing, so I want to make sure I had plenty of metal there for however that's going to join up on that floor patch. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start welding this up. I'm not going to fully get it welded up tonight, but I'm going to get these gaps all closed up, get everything kind of welded in place where it should end up. And then we'll move around to the other side. I'm getting to a point where I've got a lot of sheet metal welding to do. So I think what I'm gonna try to do here is get everything kind of tacked in a place where I want it, get it all the gaps closed up, all that stuff done. And then I'm gonna take one day and I'm just gonna run miles and miles of weld and kind of finish everything up. But for now, I'm just gonna get everything roughed into place so that I can do all the welding at once. I think that's my plan at least. But I'm gonna work on this for a little bit, see if we can't get this fit in a little bit nicer, get some of these gaps closed up here, and see how this is gonna turn out. I just completely ignored everything I said in the previous clip. I went ahead and did the welding. I was on a roll, I was feeling it, I just went ahead and knocked it out. I came back, I started cleaning up some of the welds here. You know, I didn't get everything done there, but I wanted to give you guys a good idea of what this is gonna look like. We didn't spend a ton of time on this, guys. It's only a couple hours out in the shop. That's all I got time for tonight. But I just wanted to show you guys that you do not have to be a professional to do this stuff. It's easy. I've never done this before. I'm out here, I've got a piece of poster board, a marker, a grinder, a welder, and a hammer, and we knock this thing out. Is it fancy? No. Does it need to be? No. It's the floor. It's gonna be under carpet. The bottom side of the truck is gonna be painted. It's the underside if someone wants to crawl under my truck and scrutinize the welds on the floorboard. Have at it, fellas. It doesn't matter to me. This truck is gonna be rust-free and sealed up, and that's what matters to me. So, I hope that as you're watching these episodes, it gives you the confidence and the motivation to go out and do these things on your vehicles. You know, not to knock any other type of repairs, but this is not like we're going beyond the level of zip screwing some license plates to the floorboard here. Those things have their time and place in a build like this. It's not for me. It might be for you. I'm not gonna judge you, just as I hope you don't judge me on my build here. We're just trying to make this thing as good as we can make it. I'm doing things to the best of my ability right now in short time frames. If I had, I'd love to go way above and beyond this, but you know what, guys? If I do that, this truck's not gonna be done for 5 years. So I'm trying to put the level of work into this truck that it deserves, while also not delaying the project so long that it drags out, I lose motivation, and it never gets built. We want to drive this truck next year. And I know that looks like it's a long ways off, but the cab is by far the biggest amount of work we're gonna have to do anywhere on this truck. And I'd say we're a good halfway there. We've got a lot more work to do in the firewall and in the floorboards, but you know what? After I get the other side patched the way I have this one patched, the floorboards are all downhill. The rest of the patches are pretty much pre-made, except for one piece I need to weld in the back. Everything else is pre-made. It's gonna be fairly easy. We're just gonna cut it, fit it, weld it. You know, that's only gonna take us a couple nights in the garage. The firewall is gonna be an issue. We've got a lot of work to do there. We're gonna clean that up. Now, if you're like me, you're getting tired of sheet metal work. I enjoy doing this stuff. I enjoy being out in the garage, grinding, welding. It's slow. It's monotonous for you guys. And I don't want that to be what this channel is all about, just doing sheet metal work. So next week, Thanksgiving, I have something very special planned for you guys. I'm really excited about this episode coming up. I'm gonna challenge myself. We're gonna work on a different vehicle. Maybe it's one you've already seen on the channel already, but we're gonna do something a little bit different, and we're gonna have some fun. That's the most important thing. My dad's gonna be giving me a hand. I'm gonna be doing the bulk of the work myself in a kind of a special challenge setting, and I hope you guys enjoy it. That's coming next week, the Friday after Thanksgiving. We're growing, guys. I really appreciate the support. You know, I hit 1,000 subscribers around the 1st of September. We're already up to over 1,500. So we're just growing this thing just like we're doing this truck, bit by bit, little bit by little bit. Every view that you guys put on this channel is supporting me, and I really, really appreciate that. Now, I have one thing I'm very bad about. I have an Instagram account. I'm gonna flash up the handle here. It's Cody.builds. I also have a Facebook page. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not a huge Facebook fan. I just don't really like the vibe on Facebook, but there is a page there, and you are more than welcome to message me on Facebook. I will answer your questions. You can also send them to my email account. I have an email account set up for this channel. It's cody.builds.usa@gmail.com. I'll flash it up here on the screen. Any questions you have, questions about anything you've seen, any of the tools I use, any of the stuff I've done, any of the other vehicles on the channel, anything you see on my Instagram account, anything like that, feel free to send them to me. If you got questions, you want some advice, if I can help you, I'll try and help you. Feel free to reach out. I'll try to answer any questions that I get through any of those channels. So as I said, next week is Thanksgiving. That means time off. And what should you do with your time off? Spend it with your family and work on your projects. If you don't work on your projects, they will not work on themselves. Get out in the garage, get building, and I'll see you on the next episode of Cody Builds.